We all love our mobile phones, right? We take them with us everywhere. We feel lost without them. We use them for everything, which makes keeping them secure too important to ignore. Taking a few simple safety precautions can help to protect your phone, safeguard your privacy, and shield your personal and sensitive data from cyberstalkers. Let's get into this. Alrighty, so we know that we rely on our phones, right? Everybody's got them, everybody uses them, we're all totally attached to them. This is bothering me. Why is this not coming up? Hang on. Oh, wait, there it is. It's just not refreshed. Okay. Let me start over. Here we go. That should work now. She says optimistically. Okay, so, right, we're all totally attached to our phones. We use them all the time. We rely on them for absolutely everything, which means we need to be sure that they're as secure as possible. Now, this topic has come up because of something that's recently happened, but I'm not even going to talk about that specifically, because the reality is this happens on all phones, all operating systems, just like it happens on all computers and all operating systems. There is no completely secure solution. And that's the first thing I want to get out of the way here, is the fact that regardless of what the marketing hype says, there is no such thing as 100% security. It's just not possible. It's not out there. It's not. Everything is created by humans. Humans can break everything. That's just how this goes. That said, doing something is always better than doing nothing, right? So we want to make sure that we're taking whatever steps we can take to protect ourselves and our devices. And then, the rest is up to the security professionals, who are playing a fervent game of whack-a-mole, because every time they find something and block it, something new comes along. That's just how this all goes. Life in the 21st century, basically. So just keep in mind that anybody who says that their device, their software, whatever, is 100% secure, is the best one out there. Okay, it may be the best, but that does not make it 100% secure, right? And best is relative. It's a sliding scale. Best at what specifically? And basically, anybody who tries to convince you otherwise, buy this and you'll be secure, they're selling something and lying at the same time. So that's the way it goes. So Lyle has had a real life experience here. His grandmother got her first scam email. Frankly, the fact that it was first is kind of amazing, because most of us get lots of those every day. Let's see. She had switched her email to all mail, so I switched it to inbox only. Okay, yeah. It depends on how important it is for her to catch everything, because there will be misspellings and all that. But for your grandmother, that's probably fine. And she's lucky to have you out there taking care of her, so that's very nice of you. All right, so we're going to talk about, I think it ended up being like 10 things that you can consider doing to help protect your phones in particular, right? So that's what we're focusing on now. I've talked about other devices, but phones are the hot topic right now. And unfortunately, people don't think about security when it comes to these as much as they possibly should, or probably should. So we're going to get into that now. All right, let me bring up my, hey, it worked. Okay, and that can go away. I apologize. I don't know why the captions are not working today. They were working 20 minutes ago when I started the stream, when I was testing. Well, let me try one more refresh. Okay. No, I guess we're just out of luck. My apologies. I'll figure that out next. All right. So first and foremost, if you do nothing else based on the information in this video, please, please, please make sure that you install the updates as they become available. Even an old phone that is not getting new feature updates is going to get any, they'll update for security reasons, right? Especially the big ones that come out. So you want to make sure that you keep on top of that, you keep an eye on it. Now, I understand not wanting to be the beta tester too. So my rule of thumb for people who are not super comfortable with dealing with devices, or if they can't risk not having their device work, when you see the update is available, depending on the severity of things that are going on in the world, wait 24 to 48 hours to make sure that that update is okay, because again, people are, doing this work, and people are, error prone, and we're all human. So give it 24 to 48 hours. If there's a big problem with an update, it will come out by then, and then you'll know whether or not to update or not. Don't let it go longer than that, because a lot of the issues that are coming up lately are what they call 0 day. And what that means is the issue is already there and not been taken care of. It's already active, and it's already out in the wild, is usually how they refer to it, meaning you're already exposed, you're already possibly vulnerable. So the 0 day ones are the most troublesome. So you want to make sure that you get those updates. So please, please, please install the updates. If you don't want to do it the second it comes up, 24 to 48 hours is a good window to wait. Okay, let me see. Was there anything else on that one? Okay, so that's good. We'll keep going. Ideally, okay, you're going to want to put some kind of security on your phone. You don't want anybody in the world to just be able to pick it up and start using it, right? If you inadvertently leave it, someplace, you leave it down for a minute and turn away, you don't want it to be easy. That's really the underlying theme for any kind of security. Yes, you cannot be 100% secure. I know that's an uncomfortable thought, but that's reality. What you want to do is make sure you're not the low-hanging fruit, right? You want to make sure that it would take effort for somebody to try to get into your phone, because they're going to go and look for it. Once they realize that that's the case, they're going to go find somebody that's an easier target. So don't be that easy target. So how you want to lock your phone, I'm not going to get into the religious wars over what's the better method here, because again, anything can be gotten around if you try enough. Just have something, use something, whether that's fingerprint, whether that's Face ID, whether you're going to use a passcode or a pass pattern, whatever. I recommend to people that you use a passcode for several reasons. One is they're a little bit harder to guess. Don't use your birthday, don't use your kid's birthday, that kind of thing. Try to make it as random as possible. Try to shoot for 4 to 6 digits at least. It may feel annoying to have to do that every time, but better to be a little bit annoyed than to have all of your information taken. Because let's face it, right? Everything is on here, right? Your contacts, your email, your banking, right? I mean, we do everything from these, and you've got all of this stuff on here, and this basically is your life at this point, right? Anything anybody wants to get into can do it with this. So don't let that happen. So use something, okay? If you really want to go and do this the right way, put some kind of passcode lock on your smartphone and use two-factor authentication. Now, Lyle, whether or not that would be something that your grandmother could do, maybe. No, let me put this a better way. Don't assume that the older or younger parts of the generations can't do this stuff, because I've seen them do it. And there is no age on being able to learn how to do this kind of stuff. So if you really want to have that extra level of security, two-factor authentication is the way to go. That doesn't mean that you don't put a lock on your phone, but by using two-factor, then you're increasing that level of effort for somebody to try to get in who shouldn't be in there, and that's always the ultimate goal. There's a bunch of different tools out there to do it. If you're using Android, there's the Google one, which is always a good way to go. There's a bunch of different ones if you don't want to go Google. Same thing on the Apple side. So it does not matter which one you want to take. Obviously check the reviews. Don't pick something that does not feel reliable. Go for a big name, but that is definitely the way to go if you want to up your level of security for your device. Make sense? Okay, I need to take this away. So, just as an example, right? So I'm on Google Fi. One of the things that makes Google Fi very reasonably priced is it switches you to Wi-Fi networks as you go around. Now, that's pretty secure because they are vetted Wi-Fi networks. But if you're trying to get that same kind of benefit without being on a service that has been pre-vetted, if you're trying to keep your cell phone data usage down, so you're making use of Wi-Fi in libraries and coffee shops and stores, that's relatively okay. But if you're doing anything like that, if you're making use of public Wi-Fi, make sure that ideally use a VPN is just the rule. Okay, but if you don't want to use a VPN all the time, at least use a VPN if you're going into your email, if you're doing banking, if you're doing anything that's higher level security, right? If you're using anything where you're putting in your ID and password, don't make it easy for people to snarf that information out of the Wi-Fi, right? If you're using VPN, at least that's giving you a little bit more protection. Now, let's be real here. Your first impulse may be to go and find a free VPN. A free VPN is not secure enough. You're going to have to pay for it. The prices on VPNs are not super expensive. If you just go and do a search, for, best VPN options, you'll get some good reviews out there. The thing to remember is you're going to want to, if you're using a VPN, you're probably going to want to put it on all your devices. So make sure whatever plan you buy will cover your devices. And yes, you can use VPNs on your mobile devices. A lot of people didn't realize that when I was talking to people about what was going on this week. So yes, you absolutely can use them on these. You just want to make sure that whatever plan you buy into makes that available. Let's see. Lyle says, when you got your grandmother data for the first time 2 months ago, she used all of it in a week because she wasn't using Wi-Fi. Right, and that's pretty typical. People don't always, especially in the beginning, understand the need to switch it or to set up automatic switching. So yeah, so she's only been using the phone for 2 months. That's exciting. Unfortunate that she had a bad experience so quickly, but you know what? It's maybe not the end of the world as long as nothing bad happened. She didn't actually give away any information, because this is a learning process, and so she'll be more aware now going forward, and she's got a great resource in you, which is awesome. So yeah, definitely, if you're going to be using open Wi-Fi networks, make sure you've got a VPN. Make sure it's a paid VPN, because remember, free software isn't free. If you're not paying for it, then you are your data is how you're paying for it. So you want to go with a paid version. You want to check, do your due diligence, make sure it's a reliable company that, gets good reviews, all that kind of good stuff. All right. Okay. Just FYI, if you're not sure where to find good reviews, cnet.com is a really good resource. Okay. This is another thing that may feel awkward, but it's the kind of thing that once you start using it, it becomes sort of your routine, and it's not such a big deal. So the first level of this is use strong passwords, right? Don't use password, don't use 1234, don't use your dog's name, all that kind of stuff, right? People in general find it easier to use strong passwords if they have a password manager, so they don't have to remember or have to type in these long things. Again, just like with the VPNs, you can use password managers on your phone. So that does make things a little bit easier. Whoops, sorry, Murphy. Murphy's my dog. No, that's not my password for anything. So, think about going ahead and getting a password manager. Again, there are free, there are paid. I strongly recommend getting paid. They're not super expensive. Maybe Lyle could do it, as a gift for his grandmother, for a holiday or something. But it's another good way to do your due diligence, right? You're a little bit more secure, because if somebody does get into your device, but they don't have the password for your banking app, and because you're using a password manager, and they can't figure out the password to use the password manager, then you're safer, right? Not as safe as not having lost your phone or having it stolen, but again, these things are all on a sliding scale, and we're just trying to give you the tools so that you can make the best choices for you to help keep you protected. This is a big one. Okay. Be very careful with the apps that you install, right? Now, first and foremost, you want to make sure that you're using reliable apps, right? But you want to make sure that you are not giving permission for things on your phone, like to the apps that they don't need to have, right? So, for example, like let's say that you loaded, a scientific calculator because the basic calculator doesn't do it for you. That's fine. There's lots of good options out there. However, if your calculator, just as an example, is saying that it needs microphone access, you might want to think about that for a minute. You might want to do a little reading to see why it's asking for it. Maybe it's because, it has the capability of letting you get calculations, with your voice. You need to decide how important that is, because once it's got the access, how do you know if it's listening all the time or not, right? That's the thing. Now, I don't want to panic people, right? Because this gets into the whole smartphone thing, right? One of the benefits of these things is you can tell it to do something and it'll do something for you. Very often you can do it hands-free. And people are like very excited about that, and with good reason. It is a convenience. It is a help. Sometimes it's a lifesaver, right? There are stories about people who've been in car accidents. The phone, flew to the other side, but they were still able to call for help because they were able to ask the phone to call people for help. So there are good reasons to do this. Just make sure you're making smart choices and you're aware of what you're giving access to, which apps you're giving access to what. When people get excited about using these devices, they also then turn around to me sometimes and they get upset because they're like, well, I just found out that, my device is listening to me all the time. And I'm like, yes, because how else could it respond to your voice when you want it to do something if it isn't listening all the time, right? There's definitely a tie between these two things. And if you want the convenience of the voice access and control, then yes, the microphone is on so that it can be listening for when you say whatever and ask it to do something. So, there's no easy answers here. And again, it's not about anything being black and white, good or bad necessarily. It's just about being aware of what you're giving access to with all these different situations. So keep an eye on it. One of the things that can let you know that maybe there's something wrong going on is if you install a new app and then all of a sudden you notice that your battery life is suddenly getting chewed up really, really fast. That could be a warning sign. Now, it's not always. It could just be sloppy programming, but it could also be a warning sign that there is something bad happening in that app, right? So maybe it came with malware. Maybe it's accessing things it shouldn't be accessing. So you do want to keep an eye on these kind of things. Another thing is to look at your options, right? So for example, on Android, you can choose between levels of access, right? So you can say, this app has access to my mic and my camera all the time, or only when I'm using the app, or only this time, right? So you can make it ask you every time. So that's another good option, because if you're not sure whether or not you want it to have the access, but you think you kind of might because that's a feature of the app that you're installing, then maybe give it low level access until you get a feel for how much you're using it and how inconvenient it is, and so on and so forth. And then you can always go back in and adjust it, which is another tip. So if you install an app and you give it access or you don't give it access, you're going to want to go in every once in a while into your settings, go into the apps and go into the permissions, and this is on whichever type phone you've got, just to make sure that a recent update didn't help itself to permissions that you had previously denied it, or that it hadn't asked for before, right? Because maybe with new functionality, there's new permissions. They're supposed to go through the process of requesting that access from you, but sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes you don't see it. Sometimes you're in a rush and you just say yes to it to get it out of the way. So make it a habit to go in every so often, and that kind of depends on you. I would say at least once a quarter, once a month would be better. And just verify that the things that you've given access to, you still want them to have, and that there's nothing that's now got access that you don't remember giving access to. Also, just a good rule of thumb, if you load an app and you don't use it, okay, which we all do, we try things out, they don't work, get rid of it, right? Just remove it from your phone. Don't have a lot of excess apps on your phone that you're not actively using. Right? Like when they added that, Lyle, I was like, yes, finally, this is what we needed, right? So I was saying my favorite feature of Android, only when using this app. That's my default setting, right? That's if I'm going to give something access, I deny a lot of access. But if I am going to give it, that's the one I give it, because that makes sense to me, right? I want you to do this when I want you to do this, not when you want to do this. So yes, I'm with you. That is definitely a favorite of mine. So just another little tip. Be very cautious as you're giving out and monitor the app permissions. This is another one. Make sure that you are only downloading apps from Google or Apple Store, right? Now, again, not that they have never had a bad app, not that they've never had malware show up, but at least they are trying, right? So they can become your first line of defense. They do on a regular basis, check all new apps, they scan existing apps. Things are going to go wrong. That's life. But at least if you're doing that, you have that a little bit of a backup on the fact that they're doing their best to try to keep the apps that they make available safe. And if they find something that's a problem, they punt it, right? Which should then uninstall it from your device or at least notify you. So it's just a safer way to go. There are, so they call, if you don't get it from one of these services, there are ways to do what they call side loading, right? So you go to a website and, they give you a file that you click on to install it, or there's other, rogue stores out there. Now, not all of them are necessarily bad, but you are safest if you stick with the Google and the Apple Store. Yeah, so that's a whole other topic. You're not wrong, Lyle, right? So the only bad thing with the stores is they take a large cut of the apps, right? And that's why a lot of app developers will encourage you to go to their website to get the file to install. But as a general rule of thumb, right, for the general public, that's not a great idea. Now, I design, software applications, and that includes mobile devices. So I do have to sideload, but I don't sideload onto my device. I have work test phones that I sideload onto so that we can do testing. So it's not like, it's, never done. And there may be a situation specific to you and your situation where you need to do it. But just as a general rule of thumb, don't. If you need to, make very sure you understand why they're making you do this and make sure that you feel safe about it before you do it, because that is where a lot of problems come from, is the whole malware, hidden in something. And very often it's something that becomes popular overnight. They do a big push on it, and so it can be dangerous, and it is the most common source of problems. So keep yourself safe, stay in the designated safety zones. Again, nothing is 100%, but it will keep you a little bit safer. All right. Hey, Jason, good to see you. Hope all is well. We're just going through safety for devices because life, right? I mean, things happen, and we depend on our phones too much to not be careful. Okay, so next up, don't click on suspicious links. Now, this is funny because, I mean, this is something you hear all the time, right? Especially, on your laptop, your desktop, don't click on links you don't recognize. Don't click on emails, that say that you should download or install something or anything like that. But what we have found in the tech industry over, the past decade or so is people are pretty good about that now. I mean, you get tired, sometimes you make a mistake, but in general, people are pretty aware of that when they're actively sitting down at their computer to accomplish a goal or a task, right? Talking laptop, desktop, even tablets, Chromebooks, that kind of thing. However, and this goes into the people are funny category. The problem seems to be that when people are on their phone, I don't know if they're not as focused, maybe they're more distracted. I don't know, but people are more prone to clicking on bad links from their phone than they are any other device. And they're doing studies on this. There are people out there, in the industry trying to actively figure this out. There are some people that think that, maybe just because the screens are small and so maybe they're having a little bit more trouble, discerning, evaluating what they're looking at and what they're clicking on. Some people think that there's a false sense of security around doing this type of thing on your phone. But study after study lately has proven that people are more likely to make this mistake on a phone than anything else. So please be aware. Just because you're on your phone does not make you any safer. And don't ever click on a suspicious link. Don't click on a link that you weren't expecting to get from somebody. Even if it looks like a link that does seem safe, I recommend not clicking on it and instead going into the web browser and typing in the domain for that business or service or whatever it is, because you're much less likely to get into trouble that way than clicking on any link. So just rule of thumb, don't click on the links. Okay. Use the built-in device protections, right? So there's certain things that you can enable. I do question sometimes why they're not enabled, to begin with, but then that gets into the whole opt-in thing, which, that's a whole other discussion. So let's just say that there are options that you should go and look at on your device to see if they're available, first of all, and if they're turned on. For example, remote wiping. So remote wiping gives you the ability to take everything off of your phone if you leave it behind, if it gets stolen, whatever. So as soon as you realize that it's gone and you can't find it and you're pretty sure somebody might have it that you don't want to have it, you just want to be able to go in and make it all go away. The step before that for most of us, because wiping is a pretty serious thing, is to make sure that you've got the phone find turned on. Now that's got different names in different phones and different operating systems, but the concept is every phone operating system at this point has some sort of a way for you to, when you can't find your phone, to go to a browser and say, hey, find my phone. Or like, for example, if you're in the Android world and you're using smart devices, you can ask your smart device to find it. What it does is it turns on, it makes the phone ring so that you can see if it's, under the couch cushions or in your, bag or in the pocket of a jacket you took off. That for me is always where I start most of the time. That's it. I've lost phones, right? So I guess, how long have when I bought this car, my car was dying, so I was actually walking to the car dealership to work it all out. And as I was coming back after I had arranged to buy the car, but they had to do some stuff to it, so it was going to be a couple of days, between there and coming home, the phone fell out of my pocket. Okay? I mean, like I said, we're human. This stuff happens. I freaked out, of course. I immediately did the Find My Phone. Okay? It didn't hear anything in the house, so okay, it wasn't on me, it wasn't in the couch or anything. So the other level of the Find Your Phone thing is a lot of them will give you the GPS tracking, right? So it'll tell you within a range, where it is. So it turned out that, it did tell me that I lost it on the way home. Now, of course, at that point, it was like a 200-yard range, but I remembered where I'd walked. So I just immediately went out and tracked it, and I did fortunately find it. But that is another, safety feature. If it wasn't in the house, which it wasn't, if I went back and retraced my steps on the walk and I didn't find it, then my next step was to wipe it, because I don't want anybody to be able to do anything with my phone and my apps and my accounts and my email and my contacts and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a nuclear option, but at least that way you're providing yourself with and your contact list with some security. If you've been doing regular backups, whether you're on the Apple side of the fence or Android, even if you do wipe it and then you find it later, you usually can just, get everything back to where it was. For me, that's one of the best things about the Android phones is when I move from phone to phone, it just goes and recreates my universe for me, and I'm not having to do everything manually, which is nice. Lyle and I are living parallel lives, I think. I use Find My Phone feature a gazillion times. Yeah, I go through periods where, I do it a lot. And I don't know what it is that's triggering that, more than other times. But there are definitely periods where, I'm just hitting that thing all the time. And to the point where my dog, who tends to be a little skittish about loud noises, doesn't even react anymore. Because with my phone, it starts off ringing low and it continues, to work up to being really loud. The idea being if it's in another room, they're trying to increase the odds of me hearing it. And he's not a big fan of loud noises, but because of all the times it's happened, he just doesn't even react anymore. So I guess that's a good thing. Whoops. No, that's not what I wanted. Thank you very much. Okay, well, that is what I wanted, so that worked out. Okay, so use security applications. Now, we talked about VPNs, right? So that is definitely under this umbrella. But more specifically, we're talking about malware protection. You can also load virus protection on your phone. To be honest, that's a little less likely to happen if you're doing these other things. But malware is definitely more evasive, right? Malware is a thing that shows up even when you do everything right, sometimes. So you've heard me talk before. I'm a big fan of Malwarebytes, but there's other ones out there. Again, this is something you need to pay for, because if it's free, then they're just as bad as, you're in just as much danger as everything else. So you want to be paying for it so that they are making their money off of that, not off of your data. But it's a good thing to help, protect your phone, protect your data, protect your files on all of your devices. But again, this is the kind of thing that people don't think about on their phone, so I wanted to bring it up. You definitely do want to make use of that type of application. And generally, when you buy a subscription, for something like Malwarebytes, you can buy different levels to cover a different number of devices. So you're paying once, and it's covering your computer, your laptop, your desktop, and your tablet. And you don't have to worry about it then. It's just a nice secure thing, and it gives you that, again, extra level of security. Jason says, I received a risky text message with a suspicious URL asking you to click on it. I said to him, oh, cool, excellent, thank you very much, I will take a look at that. Yes, that is pretty common, and that is basically the pattern for most of these things. So again, I'm not going to get into the specifics of it because by the time somebody watches this after the live, there'll be a new one, because I'm not picking on any particular app or phone or anything, because this is an agnostic problem, okay? Despite what the marketing departments will tell you, any of our devices, any of our applications, any of our phone operating systems can have things happen. What's a little scary about this one that just happened is, well, first of all, it's new, so they haven't got it all figured out yet, but based on what we are seeing now, based on the reports and the testing, it's one of the rare ones where nobody had to do anything for this to get installed. So the problem that got installed on people's phones that started tracking them and grabbing their emails and all, that turned on their mics in the rooms and all this kind of stuff, it appears to be, at this point, that at least one variant of it just got installed because you received a message, a text message, even if you didn't open it, even if you didn't click on anything. The process of it just landing on your phone, which is pretty scary, was all it took. It's not common. For this particular one, it was a very targeted attack based on everything we know right now. But still, this is the thing. And this is why I say, nothing's ever going to be 100%, but you want to do as many of these things as you feel comfortable with to try to help protect yourself and to protect the people, right? Because sometimes what happens is they get these things on your device and then they use your device to spread it to other people. So not only are you protecting yourself, but you're also protecting people on your contact list. So yeah, that's, it's not good. Okay, so another level for this is make sure you've got all these kind of things on here, but make sure you're also smart about just basic security, right? So don't connect your phone to something that you don't trust, right? You don't know. Don't connect it to somebody else's phone because they asked you to, because they needed help with something, right? This is the person pulling over and asking, the kids playing in the yard to jump in the car and help them find their lost puppy. Don't do that, okay? You meet somebody that you don't know, and they're like, hey, I'm having a problem with my phone. Would you connect your phone to mine so I could test something? No, no, sorry. I'm all about helping people, but there's a limit, and there's some really serious security issues. That's probably something that you would probably hesitate about anyway. But here's one that I've seen people do way too often without thinking about, and that is public chargers. Okay? You go into the mall, you're in an airport, a bunch of different places, and they're like, hey, go connect your phone. Actually, I saw it in a hospital too, which freaked me out for so many reasons. Hey, you can, sit here and charge your phone while you have a cup of coffee. No. What you want to do is make sure that you have an adapter and a cord with you at all times, and you go find an outlet and you plug in and you do it yourself, because you don't know with these, kiosks or, something over in the corner table that has all the different connectors on it. You have no idea what they're doing. And it is possible for people to install things, and hide it inside of the connector. I mean, technology's gotten very small, and load something on your phone or take stuff from your phone while you're doing that. So please, please, please do not use those things. Carry your own, make use of it, stay safe. It's just the way to go. All right. Okay, so that was the 10. Now I do have a couple of extra options that I'm going to talk through for you. These are just sort of other ideas to consider because, hey, options are good. So let me just come back here for a minute because I need to double check and see. I think. Hey, what do you know? That worked. Okay, so the first one that I'm going to suggest, and the links for these are in the description if you're interested in them. If you travel a lot, if you have a lot of stuff that you want to keep secure, if you're concerned about, near, what do they call it? I'm going to forget now. There is a technology, like what you use when you go to use Apple Pay or Google Pay, right? Where you don't actually have to touch your device to something. You just have to get it within a certain range and then the data transfers. Well, Okay, again, that's great. That's a convenience. We all love it. But there's anything good has a bad side to it, and so it is possible for people in a crowd to also make use of that kind of technology. So you may want to consider, if you're in that kind of situation a lot, or if you're just concerned about it, there are these things called Faraday phone cages, phone sleeves or cases or whatever. Now, if you're not familiar with that term, a Faraday cage is something that they use in IT it's an enclosure that you can put stuff in, and it blocks electromagnetic fields. So they use that for super sensitive equipment, or if they're testing something. There's a lot of different purposes for it. And of course, hey, never turn down an opportunity, in the marketplace. So these types of devices that you're seeing here have that kind of blocking built into them. So if it's just something else to think about, it's not something that everybody needs, but there are people out there who may like the idea or actually need the idea, so it's just something to think about. The next one, and this takes a little explanation, but smartwatches. Now, I'm sure, as soon as I'm thinking that, somebody's like, what the heck is a smartwatch going to do to keep my phone safe? The big reason I have this on my list is because there's a lot of watches that have an option on it that will notify you if it gets too far away from your phone. So if you're the type of person that is just constantly, leaving their phone behind, or, if you're the type of person that might put it down, and wander away, go get a cup of coffee or something, it'll remind you that, hey, your phone is unattended and it's too far from home. So that's really the main purpose for this. Now, you can also, with some of these devices, use it for that Find My Phone kind of thing. But the real reason I put this on the list is for that, hey, we're too far from our phone. We probably want to go pick that up and then go do what we're doing. So just something to think about. Another one are shields, right? Privacy screens. Now, again, this is something that runs hot and cold for what they call road warriors, right? The folks who are out, which hasn't happened a lot lately, but is picking up again. People who are, out with their laptops doing work. It's a screen that you put over your device screen, and it's fine when you're head on. Like, it might make things a little bit darker, but for you, it's fine. The point of these screens is that anybody trying to view from an angle, like over your corner, over your shoulder, right? Or trying to just peek over, they won't be able to see it because it skews from that angle what's on your screen. So it's a level of protection, right? If you don't want people to see what you're doing, who you're texting, what security code you just put in, what your ID and password is, it's another thing to do. They're not terribly expensive. They also offer a level of protection for your screen, which is nice too. Like if you drop something on it, it's not, completely shatterproof, but it's a little extra security. But yeah, you can get them for as low as like $7, like $20. And again, it's just something else to consider, if you're in that kind of situation where you're like, that would make me feel better. Okay, one more. You can get these little blockers. Now, again, most people, are aware of this for their laptop, but they don't think about it for their phone. So you can get this little, thing. Now, this case actually has one built into it, but you can get one and you just stick it on. I think there's a little video here. And that way you can just slide it, right, when you do want to use the camera, and you can slide it back when you don't want the camera being used. So again, they're not expensive at all, as we're looking at like $7-9, something like that. They have different shapes and sizes, right? So if you just want the little dot, that's still got a little door on it. Where's the, so you see here, this one, it slides it up out of the way, and then you slide it back down over or this one where it's just a, left right slide, but it does make it so that, your phone. Now, you might not need this on both sides. You might just need it on the front facing. It's up to you. But again, it's another option. It's something else to think about for that little bit of added security. I'm not really expecting that, anybody out there is going to do all of these things, and that's fine. The idea is to use a couple of them, right, to help protect yourself. But as we said from the beginning, if you do nothing else, right? If nothing else in this, rings for you, or if it feels like too much of a hassle, make sure you keep your phone operating system up to date. And please, 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 please make sure you have a lock on your phone. If you just do those two things, you'll be better off than most of the people out there. The rest of this are just ways to add layers of security, make yourself a little bit more safer, make it a little harder for somebody to get away with things on your phone. Right, yeah, I mean, the camera, I'm a big fan of them too. Like I said, most of my cases already have them built in. Some of the cases do, some of them don't. But I'm a big fan of them, and they're super easy. They don't damage. You know, if you need to get rid of the phone later, you know, whatever, you just pop them off with your fingernail. They don't leave a lot of residue behind. So it's a nice option to just add that little bit of extra security. And like some of these, like if you look at this one here, you know, like they started putting like cute little images on it. Like this has got cute little pandas on it, and there was another one that had like, was it plants or coffee? Yeah, plants. I thought I saw some that had like coffee mugs on them with faces. So they're making them decorative even. But like, you know, if you've got your basic black phone, you know, and you put one of the black ones on there, you don't really see it. Like, it's not going to be super obvious to people that it's on there. But again, it's another little extra security, which, you know, hey, that's what we're talking about here. Okay, so I hope that something here sparked for you. I hope that, you know, these are giving you some good ideas. Like I said, if you're interested in any of those things I just showed you, the links are in the description. And of course, if you have any questions, if you need more information on anything, if you need help with something, feel free to reach out. YourTechCoach.net. There's a contact form there. I'm more than happy to help you with whatever it is. I'm going to take a look at Jason's example. I can't wait to see that. Thank you for sending that. But it's, you know, don't hesitate, because this is serious stuff, right? That there is just too much of our lives on these things to risk. And so taking a couple of steps, I'm willing to help anybody who needs help with this kind of stuff, because it is that important, and it will give you that level of comfort and security, right? To know that you are doing what you can, and if you do keep your updates up, you're definitely increasing the odds that you're going to be okay. All right? Thank you all so much for coming to hang out. Thank you for chatting. I do appreciate it. If you have any thoughts, any comments, whatever, feel free to go ahead and put them in the comments. I do come back and check those, so don't hesitate about that. And I am here every Thursday at 8 p.m. with a topic. You are always welcome to come and hang out while we do this live. And you can also ask questions off topic. I mean, I always bring a topic, but it's okay to ask other questions too. We're flexible like that. All right, everybody, go. Use your phones. Be safe with them. And I will see you next week. Bye.